narratives that stood out in the Iowa caucuses was how poorly Joe Biden performed. Now, as of this video, we only have 62% of the precincts reporting, and just based on that, Joe Biden is not doing well. He came in fourth at 15% of delegates, a little over 15% of delegates. And one person who called that out on CNN, luckily, was Alexandra Rojas. She is the executive chair of the Justice Democrats, and get a load of what she had to say about Biden's performance.
Rojas, they had said, oh boy, a problem in Iowa. Here comes the stink machine from Bernie Sanders. He was arguably the most gracious person when he had the most reason to be upset about this.
I think that's absolutely right. I think you saw Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders last night lean into their integrity. They didn't take the results for granted and said, you know what, we're gonna focus on the volunteers and the supporters that gave their blood, sweat, and tears to this moment, and we're gonna wait for the official party results. And I think it's interesting that, going into this, Joe Biden is the one that is calling into question the results, even though they said Bernie was going to do that. Buttigieg is claiming victory, even though they said Bernie was going to do that. And I think that it speaks to the power of not just thinking about winning and losing campaigns, but really building a movement across that cuts across generation, that cuts across ethnic, racial lines, and brings it to caucuses like this.
It's a good point. We were sitting out here saying, listen, Bernie's going to be the bomb thrower.
But look, I think he handled it well. Bernie handles, his public-facing stuff is pretty good. It's rarely Bernie who raises these issues. It's Bernie's supporters who raise these issues.
So, okay, I want to go to the next video though, because I think that she has an interesting point to make about Joe Biden specifically, but I want you guys to pay close attention to how the rest of the panel reacts to it. Take a look.
I think obviously Iowa being such a debacle is a huge story, but I think the biggest story is actually that the Joe Biden is coming in fourth or fifth place, right? And that the entire argument about electability means that you have to win. And he's not going to have a strong performance, and a lot of people will try to minimize, I think, the result of that. But the reality is that the Democratic frontrunner, the former Vice President of the United States,
we don't know,
is not. Yeah, we don't know, but he's.
We don't know.
We have some intimation that he did very, very poorly.
Right.
And anecdotally last night,
that's a fair assessment.
And anecdotally last night, as we were watching the results come in, I think caucus site after caucus site, there was a dampening and enthusiasm. And I think the reality of what last night showed is that there are two progressives that have come out in the top 2 or 3, and that it's incredibly huge for this moment that the United States wants big ideas.
No, stop talking. We don't know that. 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 We don't know. Like they're like so obsessed with protecting Biden. No, we don't know. We don't know. I mean, Biden panicked and his campaign demanded that no one release anything until the results are complete. But we don't know that.
There's still 38% to go. He could get all 38%.
By the way, that segment was last night. That segment was last night before anything was reported, right? So, but
he could have gotten all 100% at that point.
So that was this morning before anything was reported, sorry. But my point is nothing was reported yet. However, the reaction, because remember, every campaign has its own way of measuring how the candidates are doing, right? And I think that's a smart thing to do. So Biden's campaign internally knew that he wasn't performing well in Iowa, which is why they immediately demanded that the Iowa Democrats, hold on to results until they can release the entirety of what happened last night, with all precincts reporting. And so there was that hint that Biden didn't do well. And then of course today, we don't have the full results, but with 62% of the precincts reporting, Biden's at 15.6% of delegates, right? So he's not doing well. He's in fourth place. But I just thought the reaction from the rest of the panel was hilarious, because since when does anyone panic at, I don't know, a contributor or a pundit mentioning something based on speculation, right? Like, one person says something speculative about Biden, everyone's like, no, we don't know that, we don't know.
Yeah, and you could do the caveat, but there was like a sort of feeling to it.
Right.
And the overall point is undeniable. There are people who have tried to launch a presidential bid and had a strategy other than the one that seems obvious, which is I'm going to try to win in all the states. They might say, okay, I need time to get my name recognition out, get some money, I'm gonna skip the first 2, and then you know what, South Carolina, here I come, like Giuliani sort of had that back in the day. here's who doesn't get to have that strategy is the former vice president who has been running for over a year, who still raised a bunch of money, not as much as some people. He doesn't get to just say Iowa doesn't count. He has to be competing in all the states, particularly because he keeps saying that it's electability that's the most important thing.
Bingo, bingo. So that's why this is such a big story, right? I mean, we suspected that Biden wasn't gonna do as well as people were propping him up to be, like this great candidate who's the most electable. I mean, his own wife said, look, I mean, I get it, his policies suck and they're not really inspiring, but he's the most electable. That was his whole thing. And this shows that he's not the most electable. He comes in at fourth, and I mean, when you compare his numbers to Sanders or even Buttigieg when it comes to delegates, he's way lower. But there were some foreshadowing moments last night prior to us getting any results whatsoever. And one of those foreshadowing moments actually involved Jake Tapper. So here he is in Des Moines, Iowa, and he's talking to some Biden supporters who were caucusing on his behalf. Take a look.
Biden, how are we doing over here? This does not look like 56 people. So the Biden group. So you look like lovely, wonderful people, but it doesn't look like you made the viability threshold.
Not yet.
There's time. This year? I'm not trying to be funny, but no. But what are you going to do?
We're going to stand strong with our first choice, and when other candidates are not viable, we know that Joe is a lot of people's second choice, and will become viable in the second alignment. Absolutely.
So you think that people who, like for instance, the Yang people probably don't have 56. They don't. The Klobuchar people, I don't think they do. So you think there's still a possibility that they will come here?
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Okay, so hope springs eternal.
I'm amused at the idea of Yang supporters, realigning with Biden supporters in the Iowa caucuses. I mean, with Klobuchar, I think that there is actually some, crossover for sure. But that Jake Tapper, his style is interesting. He's,
no, see, I'm glad that happened, even though I don't like the individual event. Like that was sort of, I guess, a bit condescending. Like he was trying to be sort of funny. He said he wasn't, but he was trying to be sort of funny. But the fact that they weren't receiving it, if you keep doing it, it becomes sort of condescending. Right. But the reason that I like it is, like, I can totally see him doing that to Bernie Sanders supporters. But he's doing it to Biden.
No, credit where credit is due. He's rude to everybody. Yeah. So look, with that said, I want to go to the final video, and this is Biden's campaign manager. She was on CNN to, let's keep it real, kind of complain about the process of the Iowa caucuses, and also she made a comment about the demographics in the electorate in Iowa that I thought was fascinating. Take a look.
We have real concerns about the integrity of the process. And I think there were some significant failures in the process last night that should give voters concern. You obviously had the app failure. The app that precinct captains were using to report in their results failed. You had the phone system where precinct captains there were reports of them getting frustrated, not being able to report out their results, hanging up. And then you have the presidential preference cards, which are essentially the paper trail for the app, which we already know failed.
There will be critics who say that you don't like the results out of Iowa, or you don't like the results that you think are going to come from Iowa, so you are criticizing the process. What do you say to that?
Not at all. I mean, our internal data shows that we overperformed in parts of the states where we didn't expect to. And during this time where we have no official verified information from the Iowa Democratic Party, we have campaigns putting out incomplete data that doesn't paint a full picture.
So there was, this claim made that in, the realignment process, it's likely that Biden's going to do better, and that's not true. So if you take a look at the graphic we're about to show you, it shows the first round where Biden had 16,179 votes, and then you go to the final round and it actually goes down to 14,176. Biden did not do well last night at all. He actually performed worse than people expected, which again, I believe is the reason why his campaign was so vociferous in preventing the release of the results until they had 100%, like, a higher percentage of the precincts reporting.
Yeah, even at the risk of potentially causing people to think, well, we won't be able to trust the final results, and there's no indication that you can't. But you saw all of the worst actors in American politics, all the Trumps, trying to get as many Democrats as possible to check out of the system and think that none of this matters. You can't trust it, so just don't even bother, because that would benefit their father. To see the Biden camp doing anything even approaching that it's a scary precedent for later on in the race, because he did terribly. If it was anyone else, they'd be saying drop out, but he's not gonna drop out. He could do better in some of the other states, and he still could do really well on Super Tuesday. We can't write him off like the media would if it were Bernie. But really fast, in terms of what I was saying about approaching the Trump sort of narrative, what the campaign manager said in that video, she was like, here's an issue, and then you have the presidential preference cards, which are like the paper backup for the app, which we know failed. And she used the intonation of voice to imply that what she was saying means you can't trust those cards, even though the words don't actually mean that. Yes, the app failed, that's why we have the paper backup. The app failing doesn't actually have anything to do with the paper backup. Right. So what are you talking about? Why are you implying that the paper trail isn't able to be trusted when you have no evidence to that effect? It seems like they want you to feel like you can't trust it. They just don't have anything to actually inspire that. So they're just gonna keep saying the words as if it was true. That's incredibly irresponsible.
It is incredibly irresponsible.
It's a Don Jr. move that they're pulling.
And they're using anything and everything as an excuse for why these results aren't legitimate or shouldn't be used to draw any type of conclusions about Biden's electability. So for instance, Kate Bedingfield, that's the campaign manager, also said this. Bedingfield also took a shot at Iowa's lack of diversity, where 91% of caucus goers were white, according to entry polls, telling Berman, we've always said that the nomination runs through Nevada, South Carolina, Super Tuesday, places where the electorate is more diverse, so we're moving forward. Okay, so look, it's just interesting for Joe Biden of all people and his campaign manager to say like, oh, no, you don't get it. Like, and look, to be fair, Joe Biden does have significant support among the African-American community, but to blame his miserable performance in Iowa on the lack of diversity in the caucuses, I think is kind of crazy. Like they're just, I know, they're just kind of like reaching for anything to excuse his poor performance. And like, by the way, so put Iowa aside for a second and think about Joe Biden as a candidate and how he campaigns and how he has encouraged people at any given moment to vote for someone else if he doesn't like the framing of a question or he doesn't like the demeanor or the tone of someone asking him a question. That's not good campaigning. And I think he's really failed to connect with voters in the way that people thought he would connect, as someone who, I think reminds a lot of Democratic voters of a better time under the Obama administration.
Yeah, and I mean, look, 9 out of 11 of the last candidates supposedly you win Iowa, become the candidate or whatever. There's a reason for that. I don't disagree at all about the lack of diversity in Iowa. It shouldn't be the first. I totally agree with that. But it is the first. You knew it was the first. You've been running for a year. Everyone else has made it through that. There are ways that a like 99% white electorate could be discriminatory against a candidate. Not Joe Biden though. Joe Biden was picked by Obama to reassure exactly those sorts of people. He's been known for literally decades. It's just like for all the people to complain about Iowa, he perhaps has the worst case to make against it.